I'm not a brand strategist, but over the past 18 years of being full-time in business, working with thousands of people and scores of brands, I've learned a thing or two about building brands. And last year at the Connected Caribbean Summit, I was able to do a lightning presentation about building your brand. Enjoy.
First person is going to be Mr. Juma Bannister from Relate Studios in Trinidad and Tobago. And he's going to be speaking to us about building your brand. Juma is a creative strategist and leader at Relate Studios, known for elevating and storytelling across the Caribbean. Juma?
All right, good morning, everyone. So we're going to talk about brand today, and it's going to be a pretty simple thing, and I think it'll be good for everybody to kind of put their head in a space of, oh, I guess I have to stay here, I can't move. Put your head in a space of not thinking about brand as too literal, because we're going to explore exactly what it is. So does anybody here like to be in control of things all the time? By a show of hands. Does anybody here like to be in control of things all the time? Then branding is probably not for you. Right? Because your brand is not something that you are in control of at all. You can do things to encourage your brand to be known in a particular way, but your brand in totality is the thing that people don't forget about you. And why do I say it that way instead of saying that is the thing that people remember about you? Is because let's just say that you have had conversations during this time here at Connected Caribbean. You have this conversation with someone, you walk away, and then you forget 90% of what the person said. But there may be one tiny percentage of the thing that they said that you remember. And that, in your mind, is who the person is. That is their brand. So the thing that people don't forget about you is your brand. And so it begs the question of, how do we make it in a way that people don't forget particular things about us? Your brand is like a seed. It's something that you plant in the minds and the hearts of people. It doesn't exist in real life. It's not literal. We've gone way past the thought of brand being a logo or a color or something visual. Those are things that you can use to build your brand as part of your visual identity, but it's not actually what your brand is. It's something that is totally intangible. So if you plant the seed in the minds and the hearts of people, they go away with it, and then with experiences over time, that seed grows, it's watered, it comes into a particular formation in the minds of people, and that's how people perceive you. Yeah? And if people perceive you a particular way, what they're going to do? They're going to do something that's very important. They're going to share that perception with other people. So there's like passing on a message. It's like a relay. Giving someone that seed, their version of the seed of who you are, and then that will grow in somebody else's mind. And over time, that seed grows. So it's very important that we remember that it's not about just the one thing that you do with that one person, but understanding that they're going to take that message and then tell it to other people as well. So branding is teaching people what they should not forget about you. Branding is teaching people what they should not forget about you. So if you had a list of things about yourself that you want somebody to know about you and you were to prioritize them, let's just suppose you have a list of 5 things. Then maybe your top one thing would be the thing that you don't want people to forget about you. For example, when I talk about my personal brand to people, not my company brand, I tell people that I help professionals become confident, consistent, and skillful video creators, right? And that in a nutshell is how I want people to remember me. So when they go to my LinkedIn profile, when I speak with people in person, that is the thing that they hear. And if they hear that enough, eventually they will echo back to me the exact thing that I've been telling people over a period of time. In the same way, you have that responsibility to talk about yourself in a way that you want people to know. And in addition to that, how people experience you will give people a perception as to how they're supposed to share who you are and what they can come to you for. That is very critical too. Your brand is made by experience. What people get when they interact with you, what people get when they come into your space, what people get from your products or your services would tell them what to think. and will water the seed into something bigger and broader. And so it's important that we give people the correct experiences when they come into contact with us so that they have the right perception in their mind about who we are and how we can help them. So your brand is not something that is, often people say, well, I'm changing my branding. And that might be something that is like they're going to get some new colors, they're going to get some t-shirts, and maybe put a logo on a car somewhere. And that helps. It helps people remember. But at the core of branding is developing a thought process in somebody's minds that will allow them to have a particular relationship with you, because the intangible things are what matter. The intangible things are going to cause people to come back to you over and over again. So let's just talk about 3 things really quickly about branding that I have experienced over the years, and I have been able to kind of pull out of what really makes a brand very important. So there are 3 ways you can process a brand in my mind. And when you look at this and you hear this, you tell me if it's true, right? Because I know all of us have a particular type of soap powder that we like. We all have a particular type of bread that we like to buy. We will only go to this particular store. We'll go out of our way to get certain things because of how we perceive the thing and how the thing is to us in our own mind. So let's talk about how you get your branding. So let's talk about the personal first. So in order for you to get something in the personal aspect of branding, you had to have had an interaction that you didn't forget. So you personally would have bought something, you personally would have experienced a service, you personally would have spoken to somebody, and that plants a seed in your mind, and you don't forget the thing about them. But that's not the only way your brand can be built. So if you want somebody to get the correct perception of your brand, you can do it this way. You could personally interact with them. But there's a problem with that, because if your business is going to scale, then you can't continue doing this, right? It's impossible. But this is one way of doing it. Then there is the inherited part of it, which is somebody told you something that you didn't forget. One of the biggest ways that people get to learn about new people is because someone else has told them about it. Have you ever had the experience of looking for a plumber or looking for somebody to fix something in your house, an electrician? What do? You ask somebody else who you trust, right? You ask somebody who you trust. So you inherit that person's perception of the other person. They will say something like, hey, this fella real good. Or that lady electrician, she know what she talks, she know what she's doing. And you inherit that perception. So you yourself didn't have the experience, but you inherit this perception. So if you are somebody who builds houses, or you are somebody who does accounting, somebody else is telling the person about you, and they're inheriting their perception of your brand. See how it's important it is to make the right impression? They're not going to keep it. And unfortunately, in the Caribbean and around the world, bad news spreads faster than good news, right? And so we want to have the right perception in the hearts and the minds of the people. So inherited is another way that you can spread your brand. And let's look at the last one, which is very interesting. The last one is perceived. This one is something that you don't know for sure. You don't really know. You've never spoken to the person. You've never used the product. But you've kind of seen it on a billboard passing by. You've seen the commercials on TV. But you're saying to yourself, based on my previous experiences with soap powder of this kind, this is probably good or it's probably bad. And you've had no experience with the thing. So what does that tell you? It tells you that regardless of whether somebody interacts with your brand directly or not, they are going to have an opinion. They are going to have an opinion. And that's why I said at the beginning that if you're someone who likes control, then building a brand is going to be very difficult for you. You can do things to influence opinion, but you are not in control of the person's mind, the person's thoughts, the person's opinions, the person's gut feeling about your company, your business, your products, or your services. And it's very important that we understand that. And the last thing I'll add is that in terms of building your brand, for most people who started business, they probably started it on their own. They probably started it as one person, maybe 2 people, and they were dealing with all the customers. They were throwing out the garbage, they were doing the accounting, they were delivering the service. But as your business grew, you added more people. You as the CEO got further and further and further away from the service delivery. You went into a more managerial, more putting things together, more visionary mode. And because you move further away from interacting with the people, you are no longer in control of how they feel. So what then do? You have to build a brand that will manage the relationship between you and all of your customers. So at the core of it, at the very core of brand, is how you build a long-term relationship with your customers. And that is the thing, that is the seed that will grow. Because as a reminder, your brand is the thing that people don't forget about you. Good relationship, bad relationship, your brand is the thing that people don't forget about you. I know if all of us could throw our mind into a bad relationship we've had, we could think about bad things, we could also think about good things. And finally, at the end of the day, this is what we want. We want this seedling to grow into a fruitful tree that people will be able to pick from, experience, and know that we have an excellent brand. Yeah?